Imagine a marathon where one runner hitched a ride in a car, the winner was kept going with rat poison, and another competitor stopped halfway to eat rotten apples and take a nap. You do not have to imagine it. It really happened. At the Olympic Games of 1904. This is the story of the most disastrous and most bizarre race ever run. Welcome to Curio Hour, where we uncover the strange, the unsolved, and the unforgettable. Today's story: the 1904 Olympic Marathon. In the summer of 1904, the Olympic Games came to St. Louis in the United States. The centerpiece, as always, was the marathon, a grueling race of nearly 25 miles. But almost everything about this particular marathon would go spectacularly wrong. It was held in the afternoon in punishing heat, with temperatures soaring into the 90s. The course ran over rough, dusty country roads, which were not closed to traffic. Cars carrying the officials and coaches drove alongside the runners, kicking up thick clouds of choking dust the entire way. And then there was the matter of the water. The organizer of the race had a peculiar theory. He wanted to study the effects of, in his words, purposeful dehydration. So, over the entire 25-mile course in the blazing heat, he provided water at just 2 places. The result was carnage. Of the 32 men who started the race, more than half would fail to finish. And the men who did run were a remarkable and unprepared bunch. There were 2 men from southern Africa in St. Louis for a world fair, who became the first Africans ever to compete in the Olympics. One of them, running barefoot, was chased nearly a mile off the course by a pack of wild dogs, and still managed to finish 9th. There was a Cuban postman named Anderin Carvajal, who had lost all his money gambling on the way to the games. He arrived to run with no proper kit at all, in street clothes and heavy boots. A kindly competitor cut his long trousers down into shorts with a pair of scissors at the starting line. We will return to him, because his race was something to behold. But first, the lighter. As the race wore on, a man named Fred Lors was out in front. Or at least he appeared to be. Because around 9 miles in, Lors had been struck down by terrible cramps and had simply stopped running. Luckily for him, one of the official cars pulled over, and Lors hopped in for a ride. He rode comfortably in that car for around 11 miles, waving cheerfully at the other runners and the crowds as he passed them by. Then the car broke down, and so, refreshed and rested, Lors climbed out and jogged the final few miles into the stadium. The crowd roared. He was the first man back. He was declared the winner and very nearly had the gold medal placed around his neck before the truth came out. He had ridden most of the way. Lors claimed it had all been a joke. With Lors disgraced, the real winner staggered in behind him, a man named Thomas Hicks. And his victory was, if anything, even more alarming. Hicks had been struggling badly in the heat and had begged to be allowed to stop. But his support team refused. Instead, they decided to keep him going, using the cutting-edge sports science of the day. They gave him a dose of strychnine, a substance which, in large amounts, is rat poison, but in tiny doses was believed to act as a stimulant. They mixed the poison with brandy and fed it to him. And when he flagged again, they gave him a second dose. By the end, Hicks was hallucinating, his skin gray, barely conscious. He had to be physically held up and all but carried across the finish line by his handlers. He won, and he very nearly died doing it. And what of our Cuban postman, Anderin Carvajal? Having not eaten in some time and feeling peckish during the race, he stopped at an orchard along the route. There he helped himself to some apples, which unfortunately turned out to be rotten. The rotten apples gave him terrible stomach cramps. So naturally he lay down by the side of the road and took a nap. After his rest, he got back up and carried on. And despite the gambling, the boots, the rotten apples, and the nap, Anderin Carvajal finished the race in 4th place. When it was all over, the marathon had been such a disaster that some officials wanted the event banned from the Olympics forever. The heat, the dust, the lack of water, the cheating, the poison. It had been a catastrophe from start to finish. And yet the marathon survived. The rules were tightened. The science improved. And the race went on to become the celebrated event we know today. But it never again looked quite like it did in 1904. A race run in choking dust and brutal heat. Won by a man kept alive on poison. Nearly stolen by a man in a car. And graced forever by a hungry postman who stopped for a nap and still beat almost everyone else. The 1904 Olympic Marathon. Quite possibly the strangest sporting event ever held.